Happy to report that we have no major changes in the number of firefighters that have been exposed. We have, matter of fact, we're trending downward. Today we have 55 firefighters that are in quarantine. We've had a total of 41 firefighters that have been exposed and tested positive to COVID-19. 26 of those have since returned back to work. The rest are recovering at home. In regards to the occupancy task force, the number of complaints have been dropping. Yesterday we responded to 37 complaints, 0 citations. We're going to maintain the same profile as beginning tomorrow as the economy starts to open back up and we have businesses opening back up for business. We're going to be working basically off of a complaint basis. As the mayor mentioned earlier, we don't have the capacity or the resources to go out there and patrol. So the goal is again to be provide the information, provide the education, and ensure that we're looking after the public safety and achieving voluntary compliance. We don't expect any major issues. Our inspectors and our arson investigators have been doing an outstanding job of ensuring that we provide the right information and gain voluntary compliance. In regards to our operational profile, as these businesses start going up, we do anticipate the number of exposures may go up. The fire department will remain in the same operational profile as we've been operating under in these last couple of weeks. Personal protective equipment will be issued. They will be required to wear that personal protective equipment. The same approach as the heightened level of suspicion for all our patients will continue. And the goal again is to ensure that we're providing, that our firefighters remain safe, to ensure that we are providing adequate staffing to be able to serve this community. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to start off with an update on Detective Ray Cervantes. He remains in the hospital. He's still on the ventilator, and he's still not out of the woods, but we remain hopeful. The family, again, continues to ask for prayers and wants to thank everybody at the community for their prayers and continued support. As of today, we are down to 51 members of the department that are in quarantine, 28 classified, 23 support personnel. We remain at 42 positives that, in terms of the exposure, which are 40 classified sworn and 2 support. And 31 of the folks out of the 42 have returned to work, which is great news. In terms of our operational profile, our calls for service were up yesterday by 10%, so we're starting to trend up again. This is very consistent with what we're seeing around the country. From New York to Los Angeles, calls for service and law enforcement in terms of crime is starting to go up. In terms of our homicides, we're about 4% since the COVID orders were issued and the shutdown or the stay-at-home orders. Our aggravated assaults are up 8% today, which includes our domestic violence being up 2%. The property crime issue that we have in terms of burglary buildings, we're still at about 22% increase, but we're working very closely with the business sector to talk about how to harden sites and some of the strategies we can use collaboratively to actually reduce those. And as the businesses open, we anticipate those to go down significantly. And that's my report for this afternoon.
Thank you, Chief. And finally, Chief Unick with the Office of Emergency Management.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership during this crisis and for adding additional testing sites in the community where it's mostly needed. I'm happy to report some good news. SETRAC, Southeast Texas Regional Advisory Council, allocated the City of Houston 9 pallets of PPE this week, and we expect to get some allocations every week for the next few weeks. These allocations are coming from the state's strategic national stockpile. I'd like to thank Jerry Adams from Finance and Christopher Perkins from the Office of Emergency Management and Jamie Arredondo from HFD for obtaining these PPEs, these large shipments, storing them, and then distributing them out to the essential employees that need them. Logistics is a full-time job, and all these men and women are working extremely hard to get the equipment out to those who need it. Thank you, Mayor.
And let me just say that as May 1 approaches tomorrow, the wearing of these face coverings will be even more important starting tomorrow as people start to come together a little bit more. But the social distancing is still very much required. The city has distributed already through various channels, city council members and faith-based organizations, about 120,000 face coverings and masks in the past week, really since this weekend. And we'll be distributing, thousands of more over the next several days and this coming weekend. So let me encourage you to reach out to your council members for face coverings or when there will be mass distribution efforts. And I know Council Member Kamen in District C will be having a mass distribution efforts over the weekend, along with Council Member Cisneros in District H at the White Oak Music Hall mass distribution. Will be taking place there, along with many other council members as well. And I would suspect between now and Monday, we'll probably be distributing anywhere between another 50 to 70,000 masks. So it's very important because as we move forward, everyone's going to be assuming a little bit more risk as people come together. But let me just say, we're going to do everything that we can within our power to keep everyone safe, make this reopening, work. And it's going to require all of us to be responsible and do their part as well. Having said that, mask up, and I'll pause and take whatever questions you may
Mayor,
have.
could I ask you a question about the rental assistance program?
Deborah, can I ask you to use a microphone, please?
Oh,
Just because people at home.
Tell me about the rental assistance program you're planning to announce next week and what that would do in terms of any people getting eviction notices.
Yeah, we're working now to try to finalize that just until May the 18th. We know that there are many people in the city of Houston that are hurting, been laid off, lost their jobs, lost income. And so they're in a difficult bind in terms of paying their rent and on their mortgage. I do want to acknowledge apartment owners who have stepped up, who are working with their tenants, and we've announced several who are not evicting anyone. In fact, that they are providing cash payments, assistance to their own tenants. But in addition to that, we're looking at putting forth a rental assistance program. It will be before city council members this coming Wednesday. It's not going to meet the needs of everyone, but it will help. It will help thousands. So those details will be laid out on Wednesday.
And generally, would it help block evictions? Because you still hear anecdotal stories about people saying they've been given notice.
Well, even depending on where those people live, the Texas Supreme Court has halted. What this will do is we'll provide some assistance taking into account a couple of months, April and May. It will be limited in terms of the cash amount, okay? So we're not saying we're going to cover everybody's monthly rent, but it will provide significant assistance for 2 months, capped at a certain amount. And then we'll probably work through another entity. It won't just be coming directly from the city, but we'll look at advancing dollars to another nonprofit who would then be responsible for carrying out the program.
And so we move from that to another issue. Apparently, there is a, quote, adult entertainment club that says it will open after the stroke of midnight this evening, 25% capacity and social distancing within the establishment. What kind of concerns do you think that might present to people?
Restaurants, retail, movie theaters. I don't think that falls in the category.
Sexually oriented businesses and entertainment venues would not fall under the allowed reopening.
And if they're not falling within those categories, then I would think they're not opening in the city of Houston.
And as I depart, one last question, what advice?
And let me just be very clear. If you don't fall into those categories authorized through the governor's order, then you are not allowed to open. And then the fire marshals as well as HPD have the authority to make sure you do not open.
And you had brought this interview yesterday, and it's just because places reopen, people may not come.
That is true.
And so what would you suggest be as kind of the guidelines for people who are thinking about going into the place? What are some of the red flags they should look for?
Well, let me just say to you, from in the city of Houston, it still exists. It has not gone away. And so it is still important for people to engage in social distancing and to wear the face coverings. Just because something is open doesn't necessarily mean you need to walk in there, okay? Just because, a business may open and they have the right to open, operating at 25% occupancy, doesn't mean that you have to be the one sitting in the seat. So you have to exercise some judgment. I will be exercising some judgment. My family will be exercising some judgment, and I think other people will as well. So it is important, I think, and wise for people to be cautious as we move forward. The flame may not be there as part of this fire, but it doesn't mean that the fire is totally out. And so if you start congregating, coming together as if the virus never existed, then you're going to see this fire reignite, and then it's going to really resurface. Our job, and what we're all trying to do collectively, is to keep these numbers as low as possible. And people in our city have done extremely well, and I want to thank them for that. But at the same time, we all need to proceed with a great deal of caution. In some sense, you can say, until there's more robust testing, we're all proceeding somewhat blindly. I can't tell you where the virus is unless we go and test every single person. And then that test only lasts as long as, it's for today. Doesn't necessarily apply tomorrow. So because we can't quite see where the virus is without much more widespread, robust, ubiquitous testing, then we all need to proceed very cautiously. And that's why we're hoping that all the businesses who have been authorized to reopen will do so with the 25% occupancy and will self-police themselves, and will take the necessary steps, as Marvin indicated, to make sure you're practicing and working as safely as possible. So we're all very much in it together. The worst thing would be for people just to swarm places or not to engage in safe practices, and 3